Good morning and welcome to Tarot Time. And there's a lot to talk about. It's February the 1st, it's a full moon. There's been a lot going on. So, in any event, hi Kaya, you're the only one who's in live apparently right now. Although we just got started, so I'm sure people will catch up. Maybe people are having to wake up this morning. And if you are here with us in live, and it's a Sunday morning, are we coffee, tea, or caffeine free? That's always the question of the day on a Sunday morning. I had my tea. I'm on lemon water right now. So anyway, there's a lot to talk about. Obviously, there's another partial release of the Epstein files, 3 million pages or document worth of things. I'll have a few things to say about that momentarily. There's a solar flare this morning. The sun just from nothing developed these sunspots, and they're already flaring. There was a couple of M-class flares, and recently an X 1.0 flare just erupted. We'll see if that's Earth directed. Probably not. I mean, we might get a glancing blow from that. But I'd say for that, to keep an eye on midweek, we could get some very sizable flares and solar activity around then. And, and silver, crashed, gold crashed, but it's holding steady right now at around 85. That's silver anyway. I don't know what gold's at. And just a lot of disruption. A lot is rising to the surface. From chaos comes disruption, and then that leads to order. Oh, I see a couple more people found us. Chris is in. Hello, Amanda. Hello, Chris. All right. So far, we're a very small group, but that's okay. People catch up a little bit later on. So for tarot time, we do our meditation cards. So we'll do that early on. For the week, we do 3 card spread. I've got other decks, other divination tools. I stay open for spontaneous messages. And often we start to talk a little bit about what's going on currently, and then we lead into tarot. And I see a couple more people are finding us. We have Coyote Moon. Hello, Yolanda. Hello, Virgo Girl. And all right, slowly but surely, people are finding us. So, grab a little sip of water here. It just went from all right. So more slowly, more people are coming. I'll keep my glass on so I can actually see. Hello, Karen. All right. So the group is starting to slowly assemble here. So anyway, so the big news is the release of new Epstein documents, Epstein files, whatever you want to call it. This just feels to me like it's just part of the whole game that's being played with us. Distraction, create things, events to get people utterly outraged, utterly furious. Get them, so emotionally riled up that it's like smoke screens. So what I see developing with this, we'll see how it happens, and I hope that some of it's wrong. But what I kind of get a sense of what's developing is very, very disgusting, outrageous videos, images, unthinkable acts, against children and stuff like that, and images of high rollers, Donald Trump, the Clintons, I'm sure the like Edward, the royal family, leaders from around the world, entertainment leaders, important figures, allegedly involved with this, but then there's no arrest. Then the thing is, it's like we're seeing all of this, but then it's like, well, it's not proof, it's not evidence. I mean, it's evidence, but it's not proof. And then that stirs up that outrage even more. It's like people see all what's going on, or they get images of it, but then justice isn't being served. Yeah, they'll be full, guys. But if you've been following us, these are steps that we predicted. In fact, this release was only about 10 days after the time that I said it would be released. So, it's definitely, time-wise, very much in the ballpark and everything. And so there's that going on. And who else? Hello, Julie. And all right. So moving right along. Hello, Julie from Ireland and from Oklahoma. So you probably, depending on, I don't know if you got snow or sleet or freezing rain from the last storm. Oh, that's the other thing. There's big snows right in coastal Carolina. So there's a big snowstorm in the Mid Atlantic, and when the sun gets active again, that's going to stir up the atmosphere and the Earth further. So we had the big solar event, huge solar event from only an X 1.9 flare, mind you, and it created all this disruption and chaos when the interplanetary magnetic field was actually unconducive to solar storms. We still had almost a G5. So, clues, more clues of what's the effect of the magnetic fields of the Earth, lessening and changing, the sun being very active. So solar maximum 25 is not giving it up anytime soon. There's more activity that's forming. And with the weather, brutally cold. I think we'll get a minor break before it gets really cold again next weekend. And those of us in the Northeast, me, and if you're in the Northeast, next weekend into early the following week, watch out for a major wind event. It's good, this time of year anyway, to have supplies for potential power outages. There could be snow also, but I feel like there's going to be a major wind event. That a little later in the month there'll be tornadoes around Dixie Alley, so that's something to keep an eye on. I think come the mid-February, it gets very cold. Then to the later in February, I think we get a taste of spring before it gets really cold again at the end of the month. So anyway, all right, people are on. Let's get started here. 7 inches in Western New York. We say untypical. Snow of the ground in Oklahoma. Yeah, that's high. I lived near Oklahoma City briefly in Norman for a time, and it snowed. Usually there wasn't snow on the ground, but it definitely snowed the winter that I was there. And we got a sleet storm one time. There's like 2 inches of sleet fell, and then 2 days later it was 70 degrees. Right, that's kind of Oklahoma winter, right? You get your blue northern, you get your that year it actually got down to negative. I think it was -2 in Oklahoma City on the winter solstice, and we did an outdoor ceremony outside of Oklahoma City with Native Americans, and then the person's house, at least the thermometer said -7, and in Oklahoma City -2. That was in December. I think that was like all-time record lows for the month, and that was, what year was that? 1983, 1984, a long time ago. Yeah, brutally cold. 3 inches in North Dakota. Okay. We had 22 inches not that long ago here in upstate New York in the Catskills. Yeah, so there's some more energy on the Earth, right? We had these big solar flares that stirs up the atmosphere. Then there's the specter of geoengineering. A lot of people reporting the chemtrails in lead of the storms. I mean, frankly, I think a lot of what people were seeing were contrails, but the chemtrails are still a thing. I definitely know that they happen also, and I did a video about that. But later on, I was doing a little bit of meditating, connecting to my guides, the master teachers. They're saying, a lot of that was experimental with the storm. It wasn't like creating it. It was more like getting data to learn how to maybe manipulate bigger weather systems, because they know how to do the smaller ones. From at least that's my opinion, educated opinion, and what I feel intuitively. They're saying most of it was really from the satellite systems. That's really what's working on the weather systems, and the geoengineering from the surface through aerosol chemical spraying. They were saying it was a lot of it was nanoparticles like smart dust that was being introduced into the atmosphere, and then the water vapor, the gaseous water, it needs a nuclei to form like clouds or fog at the surface, and it uses dust and other things in the atmosphere that naturally occur. So if they can use nanoparticles like smart dust to do that, that's going to also, I believe, be part of the control of weather, and whatever group controls the weather can really control the world. It's like it could be weaponized, right? And can be used for a lot of nefarious purposes. So I think that there's a lot of experimentation that was going on. So I don't think the people that were saying, this is engineered, the storm was manufactured or whatever, I don't think they're completely wrong. I'll put it that way. I feel like, but anyway, let's go into some tarot now. Let's spirit guide. Hello, Laura. And California's in the 80s. Yeah. So after, California, interesting, because I think it was either the winter or the January forecast or both. I was seeing like a lot of mudslides in California. And I think that verified at the beginning of the month, right? It got very wet for a time. Also in the Northwest. But it's been dry lately, right? There hasn't been any rain or snow for a while, right? And although there's a little window, because the pattern's adjusting a little bit this week, it's just going to go back into the same old polar vortices affecting the eastern part of the country, big ridge in the west. When there's a ridge, it gets warm and it doesn't rain in the west, basically. So anyway, so meditation card. Oh, yeah, these are hanging in there. A lot of earth changes, a lot coming out in the world, right? So when we do our 3 cards, we'll see if they can give us more insight as to where this whole Epstein debacle is going. And, don't trust the narrative. That's basically it. There's a lot more. It's hard to imagine 3 million pages of documents, and that's only apparently only 2/3 of it. It's like, this is back 10, 15 years ago, and there's that level of surveillance then that they could come up with this from people's emails. So anytime we send an email, apparently it's public record. Anytime we go on a website, and now we have AI, we have Gemini. That's, I don't know if that's the next generation, but that's going to be tracking our activities across all platforms. It's already doing it, and anything that's introduced has been available for a long time. The government's probably since 2000, even the 90s, probably had some semblance of AI already. You're working with them. So anyhow, let me clear my mind a second. Here we go. Found the card. All right. Well, this is an interesting card to come up. The 8 of Swords, the bound woman, right? She's bound. She's blindfolded, bound to the swords. Swords is the mind, right? So that could be sort of bound by our own thoughts, whether it's anxieties, depression. I mean, I know those are emotions, but the mind, your thought and emotion are intimately connected. So this would be, this week's meditation would be more around getting unstuck, basically, more about connecting more with spiritual truths, and maybe understanding that through various means, including frequencies that emanate through our cell phones, our computers, Wi-Fi, and everything. There's certain signals that can be used for programming our minds, basically, which is why we've been saying for 5.5 years, to do your heart-brain coherence work. To more you can expand and intensify and strengthen the resonance of the heart, the more resistance you are to the program, even through technology. Basically, the heart's electromagnetic. Wi-Fi signals are electromagnetic, also in the specifically in the microwave to, I think, low radio wave frequency. I could have the, a little bit off, but then anyway, the point being is that if you create a certain frequency, you become non-resonant with the programming frequencies, and then it doesn't affect you as much. Basically, it's just basic harmonics. Some energies harmonize with each other, some are disharmonious, right? So we want to be disharmonious to the negativity that's being thrown at us. So anyway, what to do with meditation? We get very relaxed, present, and open, right? Being aware of your breath. Anytime a thought comes up, we just basically aware of what thought it is, but just sort of nudge it aside and just go back to our breathing and get very present in the moment. So when you do that and you're meditating with the cards, this is the Eight of Swords. It's the Hanson Roberts deck that I'm using today. You can pull your own Eight of Swords. I mean, on one hand, 8 is a successful number. It's Saturnian also, so Saturn is lessons in karma. And again, swords is the mind. Swords can represent strife also, but it's air. It's the element of air. So so when you feel very open in your mind, be aware of what you're feeling, then step into the card. Set the intention and energetically step into the card. As soon as you do that, feel the energy. What does that feel like? Don't try to measure or judge it. Just set the intention and feel it. And you can ask for spirit to give you colors or smells or sounds. And these can be energy ways of discerning energy also. That's how it registers in our human psyches. Can be colors, sounds, warmth, coolness, expansion, contraction. But the idea, just get what you're feeling, and then you could talk to this guide, or there may be other guides or other things you don't see in the card, because that's just the doorway to a new reality, and allow them to work on what we need to do to get past the point of being stuck or bound to the swords here. When there's blindfolding, we're not really seeing. When we're tied to sword, our movement is restricted. But again, swords is the mind also. So it's really how we've been programmed and how we're going to move out of it. So that would be the theme of the meditation, anyways. Yeah, thanks. It's also our community hours. Let me see what you guys have to say. Thank you. Hello, Colleen. Welcome. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. And in the Big Apple, it's a balmy 15. All right. What else did I know? What else did I know? People really into AI are getting weird. Not too surprising. And again, it's freezing. Yes, it is. Yes. So the weather's a big topic, right? Yeah. 20 nights. It was below zero for most of last week. It's finally above zero. Yeah. Hard part of winter in January. Yeah, I think this is the winter that's going to keep on giving. I don't want to don't want to be a Debbie Downer. Is that the word? But I think it's more to come. And we talked about that in a recent video, and I talked about the snow and the weather and everything, why that's likely to happen. Also, the huge Great Pyramid mixing Cali. So I'm missing some of your conversation. Can be massage people's ego, and they're starting doing videos of themselves that are just weird. Is that like the AI are we talking about, or I don't know anyone really into AI yet. Anyway, yeah, they're starting to crack down on YouTube, starting to take some of these channels down. That they just pump out massive amount of videos. They're all trash, and it really hurts all of us that are trying to expand on YouTube. So what we're saying here, I'm sorry, my treats. Oh, good for you. So you can let us know what your channel name is and link and everything. Although links you can't really use links on this thread, but what the name is, then people can uh, can go to it, right? So let's do a 3 card spread and let's dive deeper into these energies now. Um, a lot of you got on later. I mean, I know a lot of you go back to the beginning anyway, but certainly the latest stuff around Epstein and those involved are big in the news. But it's all about outrage right now. Minneapolis, the outrage. It's like it's a pattern, right? And when people are outraged, they fight each other. God, after the second shooting in Minneapolis, I was scrolling down. People were just so angry. It's like it's just tantamount. I'm just I can't remember everything that everyone was saying, but it's tantamount to saying this is what I believe, so therefore it's the truth. And if you believe something else, you are dog shit, and I'm gonna block you, basically. And that was the energy in social media after that. And with that kind of energy, you're completely blocked from spirit, right? You're out of that realm. You're completely in that survival bubble, basically. And we have to learn how to channel anger and rage in a spiritual way. I'm not a big fan of denying emotions. A lot of you know that we have these emotions for a reason. You see somebody killed by federal agents, you should get angry about that, but you shouldn't hold that and be in such a rage that you close yourself off. Rather, be angry about it, but go back into the heart and ask spirit, okay, what's the message here? What can I do, maybe in my own small circle or whatever, right? So they'll do this, and once that outrage wears off, something else will come in. It's like they've had these Epstein files for how many years? So they're selectively being released, and there's a system to it. So they release that, all these heinous acts. I mean, I can't even start to talk about it here because it's just too horrible. What's been shown, happening to children and young people. But then that they'll make it very, very clear that, well, we have these photos of these people involved, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's the Clintons, whether it's celebs, whether it's the British family. It's a big global cabal of Satanists. That is what we're dealing with, what we've been dealing with for centuries, really. So you see that it's like, well, we can't arrest anybody because this isn't proof. So it's kind of like you see these horrible things, you see the faces, but then justice isn't served, and then the next wave of outrage comes. So try not to go there. That would be the message with that. Try not to go there. And what do you guys have to say? Tons of distractions for sure. It doesn't wear off. The crescendo wears off, though. What happens? It ruminates. When the crescendo wears off, it ruminates and it gets internalized. So that's a good point of clarity. Thanks, Mary. Surrounded by a bunch of lunatics. Yeah. Yeah, just don't go there. I'm sad about it too. But it's just in our face. This type of violence, whether it's law enforcement, federal agents, whether it's other countries, this type of abuse of citizens is always going on. Right now, it's ICE. That's a charged element. But the immigration department has been pretty cruel and active. Even during like Obama, people like to bring up Obama, right? The people that are in the Trump camp, but it's true. There was a lot of stuff going on then, and a lot of people did get deported then also. And I'm sure that there were incidents where innocent people were accosted and treated violently then also. It's just the media's job is to direct our attention in a certain way and it serves the globalist agenda. So be aware of what's going on, but don't feed into it, right? It's a fine line, right? But anyway, send love to the haters. I love that. Yeah. They don't know, they won't know what hit them. Yeah. And exactly, violence just begets more violence. And in the protests, I see the banners and the porters in the Communist Party, right? And what else? Oh, do not give it more negative energy. I don't know if I post this already, but I'll if not, I'll post it again. And that's saying, seeing a border town had police patrol today. Sanctuary City is 25 miles away. All right, and what do we say? Good morning, Fed King. 9 degrees there in Arkansas. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Hello, Laura. I think people don't realize the power of peaceful, of silent protest, like like the monks that are marching, right? I forgot what they're are they Tibetan? They're Buddhist monks. I don't know if they're Tibetan Buddhist. I think they have to be loud and in your face to be heard. So there's a clip of them, being stopped by law enforcement, and they were just very calm. They're showing their papers. There's no anger, nothing like that. They were just going about their business, spreading peace, and like Michael Franti, I call him the music shaman, but Michael Franti of the band Spearhead, one of his lines is "Power to the peaceful," yeah. So did we say show? Yeah, we did. So next will be Amanda's comment. It's not the entire department. No, it makes me sad to accuse all of a group when there have been one not so conscious individuals. We are all unique. We're the same. Yeah, even the ice encounters, most of them are they're official. We just hear about the exception. At least I believe that. People respect the monks, yeah, and yeah, they should. It's hard, yeah, it's hard. So let's do a 3-card spread. So that's the idea. Be aware, not scared, right? That's a good line. Be in the now, know what's going on, and then be in the heart and be as peaceful as we can, and put as much positive energy out into the collective as we can. More people that do that, the better. It's nothing new. I'm just thinking about Peter Gabriel's song "Biko" about Bantu Stephen Biko, who's an apartheid activist that got killed in police custody in 1977. So that song "Biko," one of the lines I really love, it's just a very basic line, is you can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. Once the flames begin to catch, the wind will blow it higher. And that's the thing. Let's build this bonfire together, a peace and love, and sooner or later it's going to overcome all what's going on. People are going to wake up. They're going to see what's going on for what it is, and then a new earth will be born from there. Basically. Oh, that song. I love Genesis too. Yeah. So love Genesis. Yep. And that was actually from Peter Gabriel's third album. That had the song about the J. Well, it wasn't specifically the JFK assassination, but it was talking about the motorcade and everything. What's that called? Shooting into the light or something like that. But Peter Gabriel's sort of a master of multiple layers of music and multiple interpretations. So you look at these songs, like that album starts out with a song called "The Intruder," which is basically, I think, is the collective ego intruding on our spirits, basically, and then the whole rest of the album sort of is about, like, a lot of it is about like the upheavals of the world. This was in the late 70s, mind you, or that album came out. So it's very, very interesting stuff. The Intruder, Yeah, that's a great album. And then the last song is Biko. Yeah, so early Genesis with Peter Gabriel. That was amazing music. So back to tarot, from music to tarot, back to tarot. Welcome to tarot time, the new people. This is what we do on Sunday morning. By the way, it's the full moon. Happy full moon in Leo. 7 o'clock tonight, we're going to do a transmission. We may do mini transmission at the end of this also, to sink in with these very powerful full moon energies and the sign of Leo, 13 degrees, which is about change and transformation. Leo is the heart, right? Leo rules the heart. It's the sun. So it's very powerful, positive energies. Fortunately, Heather's under the weather, so it's just going to be me. We were going to, because she has a Leo full moon. We always bring her on when there's a Leo moon, but she can't do it tonight. Morning, Roseanne. 7 Eastern time. Yes, Eastern Standard. Exactly. All right. Let me clear my mind a second. I don't know why I'm hearing Georgia. I don't know. Maybe there'll be an event or incident in Georgia this week. Here's my clipboard. Cool. A lot of pentacles. This has really been, and for the live version of the February forecast, we got a lot about money, pentacles. I think I don't know if I filmed that before or after the silver crash. I think it was the same day, so it had already happened. So nights change. Queen of Pentacles, reverse, falling, changes, pages, news. So Queen of Pentacles reverse, Knight of Pentacles, and the Page of Wands or Page of Rods in the Hanson Roberts deck. And what stands out is these look like fjords. I think there's areas of like around Iceland. For some reason, I got Sweden also. I don't know if there are any active volcanoes in Sweden, but that area may have some very powerful volcanic activity. I want to say it also feels like like earthquakes in the heartland. People along the New Madrid. I'm not going to put this out as a prediction. Just kind of keep an eye on that area. This could also be the Midwest. I mean, there's so much energy in the earth now. It really hasn't expressed. There after that huge flare, and much to my surprise, to be honest with you guys, we don't get things 100% accurate. There was no big earthquakes after that. There's plenty of lesser earthquakes, but there always are on the planet. So there's no big one in California, nothing, in New Zealand yet, or what are some of the other areas that were cited. So all that energy is still in the earth, though. So the idea is don't let out down your guard. It's still active. California. I mean, when I do those types of prediction, when it comes to like geology, weather, it's a combination of science and intuition, because I'm a meteorologist by training in college. That's what I graduated with. And it's earth science, so I know a thing or two about geology also. And I've been studying a lot about space weather. These last 2 or 3 years, I've been diving in, those rabbit holes, and really understanding more about the dynamics of the sun and the Earth-Sun relationship. And thank you, Stefan Burns, because he's been a primary source, one of about 4 or 5 sources that I've been really diving into. Also, Ben Davidson from Space Weather News, who's amazing, but such a different personality, such a different take. They're like yin and yang. It's almost like if you guys that watch those channels, almost like Ben Davidson's almost like like Stefan Burns' evil twin in a way. I'm saying that not in a negative way, but he's right to the point. He's like, this is what's going on. Prepare now. That's his message. Prepare. He calls it the disaster cycle. That everything happens in cycles. It's like we had a 1.9 flare. Granted, it was a very long duration flare that released a monster CME, but still the impacts on the Earth, especially when the interplanetary magnetic field was positive, was beyond what a flare and a CME that size should have produced. And it's just more proof that our magnetic field is changing. And on one hand, it's allowing more solar energy in. So that's good for the Ascension because it's the light codes. But on another hand, it's threatening our satellite systems. It's creating a lot of potential havoc on Earth with the power grids and stuff like that. It's just things that we have to prepare for. Humans in their typical short-sightedness created a grid that's very vulnerable to solar weather, and and that now it's going to be more of an issue basically. So it's not, that's just nature, right? So, but a lot of this is about money, but because it's Earth, and then we have fire, that could be volcanic stuff or earthquake stuff. So we may get a big eruption or a big earthquake. I don't know where exactly, but again, I think talk about the Americas because over 2/3 of us are American. This really, because it looks like a farm to me. This really makes you think of the heartland. That could be anywhere from the Midwest to the Great Plains. And what runs along that, the Mississippi, and what's along the Mississippi is the New Madrid Fault. That I wouldn't say that it's overdue, but there hasn't been for about 230 years, there hasn't been a major eruption on that fault line. I think it was early 1800s was the really big one that people talk about. So yeah, keep an eye on that. And those of us, I'm in the Catskills, and you know what? I'm not immune to earthquakes. I mean, it's very unlikely, but there could be a magnitude 6. It's not impossible that in this region, and that's a big earthquake for the East Coast. That's more than just a dish rattler. That brings the whole shelf down to 6.0. So we're all in this together, and the more love we send into the Earth, the better. So I think it's moving, but it's slow. I think the economy's on the news. I think there's something new. It may be like a new crypto thing. We talked about in the forecast for January, things like silver scams, crypto scams coming to light. This fall of the precious metals. And it said that was, oh God, what's his name? The Trump nominee of the, I can't remember his name, but somebody can write that down for the, I can't remember even what department he's nominated for, but it has to do with finance. What's responsible for the crash, because people buying up precious metals because they're worried about the economy. So when somebody gets nominated, that's been shown to not, mess with the prime rate as much, that tend to be viewed as a more stable figure. People are like, all right, we'll sell this off. And plus, it's all orchestrated. Silver spiked to 120. And then it crashed into the 70s. It's in the mid 80s now. So it's like all these things together, the natural sell-off, that. And then there's some kind of price gouging also involved with that. So people are looking at that and they're questioning. It's like, is there a scam going on? So it may not have necessarily been exposed, but it's being more scrutinized anyway. And basic supply and demand. It's like, it's hard to find silver for like commodity or collector's items, and as there's a silver scarcity, that means it needs to be used in technology, in like electric vehicles, computers, weapons, of course, all that stuff. So that means there's less silver available for collectors and for commodities, for investing. So why isn't it going way up, right? That would be a legitimate question. So it's all fixed. So I think a lot with the money, with the financial system, with the government system, it's all kind of, I'm liking this word today, ruminating. It's kind of like sinking in now, just like the energy from the solar flares are sinking into the earth, and the earth's going to express that in some way sooner or later. Especially now, we just had an X-class solar flare this morning. Given the time of day, I think that would be around the photonic blast. I think would be around Australia, in that area, but I don't know where it is. So usually there's radio blackouts, and there's a pulse of energy in that area. So what's there? New Zealand, the islands east of New Zealand that have had some minor earthquake swarming lately. So that's an area to keep an eye on. More energy could be expressed that way. So anyway, these are a couple things that these cards are saying, but I think a lot with money investment, Federal Reserve, all these institutions coming under more fire, a lot of chaos there, and a lot of volatility in the markets, basically. Coyote, yeah. So what are you guys having to say here? Yeah. So the thing with copper, it's like, in order to invest in copper, you literally would need like a warehouse. What does it trade for? Like pennies on the ounce, right? I think you invest in copper in the tons, to be quite honest. But with silver shortages, copper is the next best conductor. So the idea that they came to me was, I bought my silver with me. It's on my altar, so I have a lot in the silver. I don't really have money to invest in it, but look into copper mining companies, copper distribution. Those might be companies to invest in. Now. But if you have the space to have tons of physical copper, it might be worth a lot soon. Anyways, that's sad. What else? News. Let me just see. I'm gonna do other divination cards. Just see open. Let me see about Epstein. Let me just. I'll do this a little bit different. What this week? Okay, that's the big news. This is a card that I pulled. This is the Four of Swords reversed. Yeah, people can't be complacent anymore. Yeah. This card, for whatever reasons, makes me feel like the Clintons. We talked about the Clintons coming under fire in the January psychic forecast, and Bill Clinton missed a congressional hearing, I think. So they're definitely on the hot seat, and now they're obviously them, and all of their images are all over these Epstein releases as well. Yeah, it's not peaceful. I'll put it that way. And I think, as I'm talking about, I feel like they show me two images. One is a big broom, so they're going to be trying to sweep a lot of stuff under the rug, of course. And I forgot what the second image was. I should have gone to the second image first, because that went away. But it indicated a lot of disruption, basically. Demonstrations and even riots, connecting now to the Epstein, maybe more in Minneapolis, and that's going to spread to other cities. That's been part of the, not just me, but everybody that does this kind of work and has their finger on the pulse of the society's heartbeat, so to speak. Knows that there's going to be more upticks in violence, unfortunately. So keep sending that energy of peace out. Hey, Josh, I just saw you in. Yeah, I haven't been sleeping much either. I think I did sleep almost 6 hours last night, which it's hard to get up, but I feel better today. Yesterday it was like a basket case trying to do readings. It wasn't too much fun. I don't think I have my Native American deck with me. Oh, yes, I do. Where is it? Here it is. So let's get another card from this. He didn't answer their subpoenas. You're saying that's like a slap on the wrist, is I think is what you're trying to say about that. Yeah, there's a reason why these lists have been withheld for so long, because they go over it. There's so much of it. They can't release it all, because it's like everybody's going to go down. It's not just people that think it's just the Democrats, the Clintons, the Obamas, and all that. No, people others think it's just Trump. No, or the Bushes. So it's all of them. They're all a part of the cabal. It's Donald Trump and all. The most controversial figure ever. Is it any coincidence that he's during these times that he's I'm going to say appointed president, because I really don't personally have a lot of faith and belief in the election system. I think that they're really appointed by the cabal, and I do believe on a soul level that yes, his mission is to expose the corruption, but I don't think that's a conscious thing, to be honest. And I just messed my card up. That's why I'm doing this. But I do believe that that's on the soul mission. But if you understand the cabal, deep state, globalists, whatever word you want to know, and understand their agendas, you see that he's fulfilling those agendas in office. You start with Stargate project and go from there, basically. So research that, and you may if you're not aware of some of the moves being made, just as a little snippet, mRNA vaccines are part of the Stargate agenda. The Stargate, is that what's called, agenda? There's another word, but anyway, for cancer treatment, using AI and stuff like that. And this is a president in his first term that spoke out against the mRNA vaccine or COVID, at least for COVID anyway. This is a different use of it. So, let's be fair about it and balanced and open. But still, that happened, and then funding was froze or diminished for cancer research right after that. So all the money and energy goes in developing these new cancer therapies, but it involves the mRNA vaccines, and the mechanics of that is there's an alteration of the cell of the DNA, basically, that happens with these vaccines. So and incidentally, for those that don't know, that's mRNA. It wasn't new. It had been researched for cancer for decades. I think at least a decade and a half before the COVID pandemic hit. So that's what they were developed for in the first place. Although I'm sure as they were developing these viruses, that they were also developing the vaccines alongside with them. So anyhow, that said, see, you were actually a participant. That's very, very interesting. Stargate project. Thank you for that. Your galactic DNA. Wow, now that's really interesting. Yeah, there's a lot more to obviously the Stargate than the half $1 trillion that Donald Trump lobbied for the development of the AI infrastructures and everything. It's a whole thing. Yeah, but that's very interesting. And of course, the Starlink satellites. Obviously, that's part of it also. 2 to 3 of them burn up in the atmosphere every single day, and sooner or later, those metals, maybe it's free molecules precipitate to the earth. So we breathe in satellite metal. Also, we breathe in the silver oxide and what's the aluminum that they spray in the atmosphere. That all precipitates back to the planet. Yeah, I think, on another note, watch out for fires too. That just popped up in my mind that who's having a dry spell in the southern hemisphere? Would that be Australia, New Zealand, that area? They may need to watch out for fires. All right. So we got the sand painter. It's the Eight of Pentacles. So eight's come up a couple times. Eight is it's successful energy. It's Saturn, so it's about laws. So I think a lot with the legal system comes up this week. So you may see hearings or people being subpoenaed in government and stuff like that. And, I think people are going to be subpoenaed to testify. This may also be around Epstein or other potential scams in the world. And then, sand painter, it's like painting lines in the sand, but getting back to this original spread with all the money, they just had the what was the puppet show in Switzerland, and not known as the WEF meetings, a meeting of the reptilian minds, whatever you want to call it. And Donald Trump was pretty active with that. I know he's very, very ill. I know that. I could see it in his energy. But he got his butt to Switzerland, right? And he spoke and everything. And some people are hailing his speeches. Others are denouncing it. Typical Donald Trump energy, right? But what was this leading to? There's a point. Yeah, I forgot the name of it, but he has his own. It's like a peace organization, right? That he's initiating. And you'll notice the nations that are on it are a lot from the Arabic countries, right? A lot of Middle Eastern. I don't know if China's in. I don't think China is. Russia may be considering it. But, a lot of the BRICS nations, I'll put it that way. Not the NATO nations, right? They're not part of that. So, again, lines in the sand, right? There is a World War III agenda that's slowly developing on our planet. War is orchestrated. It's talked about behind the scenes, and then it's executed. Most of it is through psyops and brain's not working as usual on a Sunday morning. Cyber attacks, psyops, and cyber attacks, and it's dividing the world in two. So this is, again, going into that. I mean, I think part of the thinking of that is that NATO and the UN are corrupt also. So I think, at least on the surface, let's create something that's not corrupt. Let's help create lasting peace in the Middle East. Middle East, Israel, Epstein. He's a Stein also, like I'm a Bernstein, or in German, Bernstein, which means amber. Lots of ties to that area, right, with Epstein and such. So, lines in the sand painter. That's what we're seeing. They're painting those lines in the sand now. So I think that's what that's reminding us of. Well, apricot seed. Smash that dollar, right? I'm glad I have commodities. Yeah. So what else are we talking about? This looks like an interesting comment. When I see the word Satan, I saw Satan, that spear portal, when I was 5 and people owned that house. That's a pretty scary age to see Satan, right? That is why the other side is my year. Yeah, I get it, because when I was 4, I had pneumonia. I was in the hospital, and this is in the early 1960s. They gave babies codeine. They doped us up, right? And a little bit of a run with heroin in my younger years, but we don't have to talk too much about that because I'm sober now for a long time. But what happened was I was lying in bed and I kept leaving my body, and Yeah, and I had these like terrors when I even now when I think about it, it gives me a little anxiety that I leave my body, find myself like in the corner, like looking at the looking at the room and struggling with all my might to get back in my body, pop out of it, go through that 3 or 4 times till I finally fell asleep. And there's just no way. I mean, I'm gonna have to do a lot more shadow work before I can do like consciously do astral traveling, because of those experiences. So I get it, Mary. I get it. And some people are talking about apricot and vitamins. I don't know if somebody's dealing with cancer, if that's why. And I know that that's good for that. Josh, you had something else I wanted to post also for the group, and I can't find it now. Um, uh, oh, this was it about the UN, right? Oh, interesting. They're about to run out of money. That's very interesting. Yeah. Uh, the reason that heroin is so addictive and hard to break is that it brings you to the door of the spirit world. Closer you get with the high, but you might end up crossing over. Yeah, I know. I was when I was using. I was still a responsible user. I'd always test it out if I didn't know the source. And I never got to that brink where, but in a way, it opened up more to the spirit world. And I noticed that, but in another way, it got me out of touch with my own emotions. And then when I got off of it, I just wondered how the heck I was doing psychic work when I wasn't able to access my own feelings, because I get so much information through feeling. It's an interesting thing, and I think the seeds of opiate addiction in my generation were set because it was okay to give kids codeine, right? It was okay to do that, and that opens up that pathway. So anyway, that's interesting. Let's move on. Let's see what time is it. It's almost been an hour, so I want to do a couple of other things. I've got Isis Oracle deck with me, so let's do that. Right, yeah, it's the Corsairs had codeine in it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Grow your own, or what are we talking about? Growing your own. Is that cannabis? God, the Hong Kong flu, that was a nasty one, yeah. Yeah, I remember the Hong Kong flu. Last time I had true influenza, I was 24, so that was many. I'm 67 now, so you can do the math. People say I've got the flu. It's like, if you have the flu, you basically you're bedridden. You have at least 103 fever. And some people don't get fevers, but for the most part, it's respiratory, so it's hard to breathe. You're sick for at least 2 weeks, and it's a very serious. True influenza is a very serious. People die from it, right? People die. We it's very fast to talk about COVID deaths back in that day, right? And call anything a COVID death if somebody had COVID like within the last year. It's like, oh, they died, it's a COVID death, right? So those numbers were inflated. But influenza, a bad strain of influenza can kill up to 1 in 500 people. I mean, I think Spanish flu even more than that. Usually it's more like 1 in 2,000. I mean, that's a lot of people still. And it's keeping everything in perspective, right? I don't know what strain we have here, but I remember I was a kid then, and Hong Kong flu. Yeah, that was a bad one. Yeah. All right. So anyways, these cards are slippery. My hands are dry. That's why I'm struggling here. Magic and ritual. Well, we've been talking a little bit about that. Maybe it doesn't hurt to do a little bit of magic for protection and healing, right? the thing about the word protection is if you use it too much, and then you kind of create a vibration where you need protection. So when I talk about protection, understanding it's like we don't need anything outside of ourselves to be protected and safe, just connecting with our higher self, spirit, source, or God, right? So crafting sacred practices, so magic, spelled with a K, right? So that's more about certain type of energy work, a certain way of using energy in prayer, using rituals, using props, as it were, incantations and stuff like that. Ritual crafting sacred practices, and so I think they're just kind of saying, we're dealing with a global cabal that understands the dark arts. They know about astrology, numerology. They leverage that to make their work stronger, against us, so they can maintain the control and power. So I think it's just more. This is coming out for us to be aware of what's going on. There. Are there blood sacrifices? Yeah, I believe there are, and some people know that they are because they've witnessed it. So people, that's actually, there's eyewitnesses to things like that. All these satanic rituals and practices. It's all part of the game. It's all part of the evolution and the process of ascension of humanity, basically. So we experience it. It's like the coyote, the trickster. We learn, we grow, we get stronger, and then we pull out of that energy. We go back into the light, basically. So I think they're saying just be aware of that, and maybe it doesn't hurt to do a little bit of prayer work to have stronger shields. They're working overtime. People like us that are sharing this information. Yep, I get it. So let's see. It's an hour and 1 minute. Let's just do a couple of others. 3 more quickly. I wanted to pull our totem animal, a frequency of the week, and an angel card at the end. And I think, Spirit's saying yes. Okay. Let me just ask. Well, they're saying it's a choice. Okay, yeah, I get it. So we're gonna do tonight at 7. We're gonna do like a full half hour to 40-minute transmission for the full moon. So I'm not gonna do a mini one today. Basically, I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm asking Spirit. They're saying it's a choice, but it's okay to just do it at the end. Do it at 7 tonight. So that's when we work with the master teachers, and they work with vibration and frequency to raise the vibrations. Higher frequencies penetrate deeper into our psyche, deeper into our spiritual realm, so that they raise our frequencies that way, and help us to become resonant with these new positive energies of this new lunar cycle. It's the snow moon today. It's the full moon, and it's in the very benevolent solar sign of Leo also. So we're going to do a transmission for those energies. So as we become more synchronistic, or at least resonant with these energies, then we can take more advantage of it. And Leo is very healing also. So it's going to be a lot of healing energy. We might even see if Archangel Raphael shows up. So we're going to do that later, not today. The next week we'll probably go back to the regular schedule. And when we got raccoons, raccoons been showing up a lot lately. So when I see that, that could be about theft, right? Because they're little thieves, but they're so darn cute. Also, they're like the masked bandits, steal from the rich and give to the poor. Very Robin Hood energy. What else about raccoons? They're stealthy, they're clever, right? I need to look at the book. Even though we pulled this, I don't remember what the book meaning is from the medicine cards. 46, is it? Interesting. Raccoon wasn't one of the original 44. Generous protector. So that's interesting. So we got the the last card is about protection, also generous protector. So I think it's just spiritual way of just driving that point home. When there's themes, we pay attention, and that could be energetic protection, violet fire meditation, white light, golden circle of protection, spirit mirrors, all the stuff that we do. Chanting Om, or there's different chants, Kali chants, all that kind of stuff. See, but heart brain coherence is the ultimate protector, because it protects us from lower frequencies, because it cultivates our own higher frequencies. And the higher our own frequencies are, the more we are connected to source, the highest of the high, and we're safe and protected then. So the idea is this week, make sure things like your passwords are secure. Keep especially an eye on scams, because they look very real now with AI. And so keep an eye on. Never give Social Security, no matter what. If somebody's calling, they need this information, or emailing you, check the validity first before they do that. There's phone scams. They try to get you to say yes to something. Don't say yes, because then what's really happening, you're saying yes to being on a certain mailing list or something else. So, got to be very aware, very savvy now in this time of day. So I think that's one of the themes for us, is be aware of those thieves out there that are trying to steal our identity, or break into our accounts and stuff like that. Or literally rob our houses. And let's see what frequency comes up also. Excellent. I'm going to be working. I'll miss it. But that's good. But you guys catch that, his almas are beautiful. And then you can do that, and then do the full moon transmission at 7 Eastern here. Thanks for hosting that for us. If I'm done working early enough, I'll tune in, actually. This just got a surge of energy. I wonder if there's another flare just now. That X flare is kind of near the eastern limb, in the northern hemisphere of the sun. I don't think that's going to be more than a glancing, but watch out around Wednesday, that time. That flare that developed in 48 hours and started to get eruptive. That'll be Earth facing, in a direct line around that time. Universal love, 44. Let's vibe on universal love for a moment. I think what I'll do is I'll do some very quick group prayers at the end. A very, very mini transmission, but say the main one for later on. Just because I pulled universal love, I think that's spiritual way of saying, let's do a little bit of heart synchronization near the end. And what this says is the frequency of universal love activates connection we feel to each other, to our planet, and to the whole existence itself. Franz Schumann. Does Franz Schumann talk about the Schumann resonance? Oh. Yeah, well, that could be. So whenever you see an active, especially if it's white spiky activity and there's breaks in it, what you want to do is pull up your weather app, go to Tomsk, Russia, try to synchronize the time that the activity on the Schumann happened, and see what's going on. And if there's even a snow flurry, that's probably what caused it. Now, there are signatures that are genuine activating signatures, and there's earthquake signatures, there's solar signatures. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a spike just because there was a solar flare. But that's the thing. Because I just see all over social media, people posting these and saying this means this, and they don't know how to read the Schumann graphs. They don't know how to take into account atmospheric conditions that are more local. that area. And most of the grass you see are from Tomsk, Russia. It's close to the Arctic Circle. There's probably ley lines there. But for some reason, that's a really, really good place to take the Earth's pulse. And that's basically what this Schumann resonance is. It's the pulse of the Earth. It's the standing low frequency waves, 7.8 hertz. And then just like ripples in a pond when you throw a stone in it, from the base frequency, you have higher frequencies. So you have higher energy to different levels. There's like 7 modes of the Schumann resonance, but the base frequency is the main one, and these are the harmonics, above that. So that's how frequency works. So anyway, interesting. And yes, as we study the Schumann resonance more and more, we're going to learn more and more about the relationship between the different characteristics of it and what it really means in the Earth. Now, the interesting thing is there's a lot of what Stefan Burns was calling them earthquake signatures. And they were more around, I think, 25 hertz. They're like these little lines, these little features. So far, no earthquakes, but we did have that big winter storm here in the States, and I wonder if those signatures were like was it HARP signatures? Was it something from satellites that was geared to affect the storm or affect the weather? So it's interesting, to note these, and I kind of keep a mental thing. So each time one comes up, I kind of say, well, these look like this, and see what happens, and see what happens later on. It can pick up on nuclear detonations, right? Because that releases a ton of ionic, like plasma energy into the Earth field. So you can pick up on covert atomic, testing, because people have atomic weapons or nuclear weapons, right? They have to test them somewhere. It's theorized that they go to the very South Pacific, South Indian Ocean, where they think nobody's going to detect it, and they do it underwater. Well, the Schumann resonance does detect it. So it's interesting stuff here. So then, let's just do a couple minutes of just a little bit of heart resonance. So the idea, let's just take a deep breath in, the next exhale, release. So if we can synchronize our breath, we will synchronize our heart rhythm also, our heart frequencies, which is different than the heartbeat, by the way. Inhale, a lot of love and light all around. Hold that in your heart. Exhale, release. Inhale, lots of love and light from the universe. Hold that, circulate that in the heart. Exhale, release any stuck energies. Inhale. Exhale, release. Inhale. Exhale, release. And just place your focus in your heart, the center of your chest, heart chakra. Let your breathing come normal. Feel your shoulders, chin, and cheeks and forehead relaxing. Be very aware of your heart. And there's a beautiful gold or white light. Inhale, exhale, feeling grateful in the heart. Feel the emotion of gratitude and appreciation, compassion, love. And feel your heart expanding now, as if your heart was now expanding to your body through your auric fields, filled with compassion, gratitude, love. Expanding your heart into the earth, into the conscious fields, the earth fields, the collective fields. Your heart is now one with the earth and the collective fields. Feeling grateful, peaceful, loving energy, holding that. Just hold that for the next couple minutes while I tone. Asking the master teacher to give me a heart tone. Ask and you shall receive, dear ones. And hold that light like all of collective consciousness. It's within your expanded heart frequency. And just feeling love and peace, love and peace, love and peace. Long tone. Love and peace. We send our love and prayers into the collective, and all beings be happy and free. You're able to ascend, to learn and grow through the lessons, strife, and struggles on the planet as a collective. Able to process and ascend, to use that not as a source of negativity, anger, to lower our vibration, but rather a springboard into higher understanding, love, truth, higher consciousness, expanding the heart frequencies through the collective. So must it be. Alrighty then, I'll see you guys at 7 that come to the live transmission tonight to resonate with this full moon vibration of expansion, growth, and healing. It's solar energy. It's Leo energy. Let's all shine like the sun. And thank you, everybody. Love you. And we will see you in the next video.